In this video, I will be going over the reasons why homosexuality is a mental illness. Let me get one thing straight about this video before we hop in though. I am not telling anyone how to live their lives, but homosexuality is a mental illness and I want people to be informed as to exactly why and what homosexuality is and the nature of it. That is what this video will be focusing on. Now, the very first reason that homosexuality is a mental illness is rooted within our very own biology. Contrary to how a lot of people feel about sex, it is specifically for reproduction in our biology. And I obviously don't have to explain this, but you can't have kids by having gay sex, so it directly goes against our biology and is therefore unnatural. I've told people this before, and a common argument that I would hear is that homosexual sex in nature can be found with different animals, such as primates and whatnot, and I always found this to be an extremely weak argument for these reasons. For this argument to work, you'd have to be operating on the belief that animals can't do anything outside of their own nature, which is not true. Many different kinds of animals have self-destructive behaviors and things that are detrimental to not only them, but their whole species as a whole. Take this bird, for example. This bird is missing feathers, and that is because it is a common stress response for birds to pluck their own feathers out, despite the fact that their feathers are necessary to their survival in the wild. This is similar to a human cutting themselves when they're depressed, and you wouldn't say that that person isn't mentally ill, the same way that you wouldn't say this bird isn't mentally ill. Now observe this video of a chameleon that will soon eat its own baby. For those of you that are uncomfortable with that, you can skip ahead, but it eats its own baby. You can see in this video that this chameleon isn't malnourished and is in fact has quite a bit of fat on its body, so this clearly isn't something that's required for its survival. It just does this. Now, just because an animal eats its own baby, does that make it okay for us to eat our own babies? No, obviously not. So we shouldn't base our morals on what animals do. Can we all agree on that? Good. Now, before we get on to reason 2, let me address something I know some of you are probably already typing in the comments, which is something along the lines of, well, who cares if it's unnatural, if it makes them happy, etc., etc. And that segues us into reason 2 because reason 2 is health risks. Believe it or not, if you have gay sex, you are much more likely to get HIV, syphilis, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, chlamydia, and gonorrhea, all according to the CDC. More proof that it's unnatural and something you shouldn't be doing with your body, but these are the health risks involved too. If you're someone who's against people smoking, then you should be someone who's also against gay sex because you're basically gambling with your health, just like you are with smoking. So yes, there is a reason why you should care about doing things that aren't natural with your body, and you shouldn't just do things because they make you happy. That's how you become obese and get obesity-related illnesses if you only eat foods you like. That's how you get lung cancer if you smoke, etc. These are very basic principles that are applied to a lot of different things. Now let's move on to reason 3. Reason 3 is a bit disturbing, and it might be a little bit of a stretch too. So just in case you don't want to hear about something really disturbing, I suggest skipping this one. But I'm pretty callous to this stuff due to certain things I've experienced. But according to this PubMed article, the proportionate amount of pedophiles who are gay versus straight is 11-1, which is kind of a disturbing fact because at the time of this study, roughly 13% of the US population was homosexual. Now, I couldn't find any data on how big the pedophile population was around the time this study was done, but it's still disturbing that majority of the pedophiles, like 11-1, were homosexual. It's almost as if it's some sort of disorder or mental illness to have any kind of sex that isn't between two adults of opposite genders. But, you know, just throwing that out there. Not saying that all gay people are pedophiles, but in drug terms, being gay would be weed and being a pedophile would be heroin. So I guess it's some sort of gateway, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a pedophile, so I couldn't say, but, you know, this data exists, you know, it's pretty disgusting. Reason 4. This study shows that a same part of a straight man's brain that reacts to maggots is the same part of the brain that reacts when they see two gay men kissing. Just more proof that it's unnatural. It's actually a fascinating study, but I won't cover it all here. You can read it yourself. Those are the reasons why homosexuality is unnatural and a mental illness. If you're someone who engages in homosexual activity, you're actively choosing to be mentally ill and stay mentally ill and indulge into your mental illness. The next segment of this video is discussing why homosexuality is bad from a moral standpoint. Remember earlier when we could have both agreed that eating our own babies is a bad thing to do? That was likely an instinctual response for you, but you might not know why you thought this. It just seems like obvious that you shouldn't eat your own babies, but there's basically two reasons that are baked into our DNA that prevent us from doing things like this. Reason one is empathy. As humans, we care about other humans within our community because we rely on them to survive. Independence, in case you didn't know this, is non-existent. You would depend on literally everyone else in the community you live in, no matter what. If you think you don't, then you are delusional. Reason two, humans need to reproduce, and because a new offspring, want to keep it alive to keep the human race going, and that's also built into our genetics, so that's another reason you likely didn't want the baby to die. Now, let's say that you were gay when watching this video and you now want to help yourself get over this mental illness that you have. What are your options? Personally, I wouldn't recommend going to a normal therapist because sadly, majority of people have the wrong belief that being gay is normal, so they probably wouldn't help you stop being gay if that's what you asked them to do. A Christian psychiatrist probably would, but there are sadly a lot of grifters in this community, so go this route at your own risk. Be cautious, make sure you know what you're getting into beforehand, because there are a lot of manipulative people in this group, sadly, or people that are just posing to be a part of this group in order to manipulate people. Not saying that there aren't good people in it, but, be cautious. I would personally recommend meditation. I used to have a really bad porn addiction, and meditating helped me get off of it over time. So I would recommend this for anyone who has some sort of mental illness or any sort of sexual deviancy or habit in general that they'd like to, get rid of. There are a lot of great meditation material out there. I would recommend doing guided meditation as well if you're new to it. That's just the main thing I would recommend. But what if that doesn't work, guy? What if I'm still gay after all that stuff? Well, first off, don't expect fast results because depending on how deep in you were on this belief, it could take months or even years to get this habit or mindset out. So, just because it doesn't work immediately doesn't mean it never will. Second of all, have self-control and patience. As long as you're not engaging in these activities, a habit will slowly die over time. Our brains are constant pattern-seeking machines. If you stop using a pattern, it'll weaken the neuron connections in your brain. Also, if you're struggling with constant sexual desire, I recommend fasting because a lot of people don't know this, but your gut health is very closely linked to your mental health. And just not eating will give your body not only time to reset, it boosts your immune system and has a lot of positive mental health benefits. So try a weekly fast, just one day, don't eat anything. That's very good for your mental health in general. Even if you're just trying to better yourself as a person, you don't have any mental illnesses, I'd still recommend this. If you're still not convinced that being homosexual is a mental illness, then I suggest using your brain. Rewatch the video and pay close attention this time. The evidence is all there. But if you've watched this whole video and you agree with me that homosexual is a mental illness and you still don't care, it's your life, man. Destroy whoever you want.